Ruchi, hello to you. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Must be a little bit late there, yeah? What's the time there?
Yeah, it's around 8:30 in the evening.
Okay, how
I
early
had a
then?
meeting. I had a meeting during afternoon, customer meeting, so I couldn't prepone it. I
Okay.
did get your mail though.
Yeah, I just thought maybe it'd be more convenient at the time. So
It was a customer. Thank you so much for considering that. That was really considerate of you.
you're most welcome in that case. And
Yep.
just while we're, I mean, say like you're a little bit new to the, well, your company is more than known, but you're a little bit new yourself to SCN community. Just while we're getting people connected up, where are you based? Are you based in Mumbai or?
So I'm based out of Mumbai, and
Okay, yeah.
I joined them very recently, like in February itself. Prior to that, I was part of Kinnagle, DHL, and DB Shaker,
Uh-huh.
and I had my own startup, tech-based startup, which I founded along with one of the partners. So it's been a long journey in the industry, and yes, this is my first conference and meeting that I'll be attending in September.
That's right. That's great. Well, we're looking forward to meeting you in person there. And more than anything,
Absolutely.
you seem to have a bit of a varied background in terms of like, I mean, New Globe is not a small company. How many of you are there in India?
It's not really small. In fact, we complete 75 years this year,
Uh-huh.
and we have some 300 odd people, employees in the company. We have offices in 15 plus states in India, and we are also present in Sri Lanka. So
Oh, right.
Ashwin, who's the managing director, he's based out of Netherlands
In
and
Holland,
is
yes, that's
running
right.
the,
Yeah,
yeah.
good,
So
good
you
guy.
know
Yeah.
that, yes, that's it.
Let's throw the question to you first before while people are connecting up. Did you do the survey first, or even if you didn't, challenges in sales? What's the main challenge which you find with sales? You would say within the
Uh,
scope of New Globe, let us say.
I've been part of sales for many years. In DHL, I was handling global accounts and key accounts. I was part of global key accounts. Recently, it's been a corporate sales for me. India as a market has changed a lot. It's there are a lot of forwarders, the competitiveness of the market. It's very volatile. Today, I feel the lack of customer loyalty, which we used to see like 10 or 15 years earlier. That
Hmm.
there was a lot of sticky ground to the customer earlier. They used to stay with you for longer duration. Now it's like they change sides, like even if somebody's giving them a 2 cents less or a 3 cents less or a $50 less. So there is no customer loyalty today. And of course, a lot of challenges in terms of smaller players who's come in. Especially, we have a lot of SMEs and mid-sized customers in India who are the major game changer now, because bigger companies like DHL, Kinnagle are basically more into a big size global accounts. That's what their main forte is. But for us, a mid-sized company usually target, apart from the bigger clients, big corporate houses, smaller companies which are very, very price sensitive, So that's the biggest challenge, of course. And retention is the biggest challenge, which I feel today. Like it doesn't stay for long. That's one of the challenges I feel. So with me, I think I'm trying to, when I sell, I don't just sell one product. It's like selling a gamut of activities, multiple verticals or multiple, sales point, which can create a sticky wicket for my customer, and can I have a longer retention period with them. Like, for example, it's not freight. You talk about warehousing solutions, you work around custom clearances issues. So those are the biggest things that I try to sell to create that, kind of a relationship with the customer. Of course, and relationship plays a very, very important part in India, because they don't want to usually change if they're working with one forwarder for like 10 to 15 years, so they're very comfortable there, I think.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's very. I mean, hearing a lot of your comments mentioning price. That's obviously
Uh,
like so price is like maybe the biggest challenge. Are you expensive or too expensive? That's the make or break. Customer service. Let me bounce that same question over to somebody else. Who's going to take up that experience on the other side of the Atlantic?
David,
Diego.
David,
Yes.
yeah. Hey,
Hey, Diego.
I would,
How's
hey,
Brazil?
a
More
little bit
price sensitive
cold,
than India, or what are your
a little bit
challenges?
cold at this moment. But listen, deals in Brazil are based on trust usually, but the lack of customer loyalty is something that is very present on these days, as mentioned by Ruchi. In the past, when no one knew about this business, everyone needed to trust someone and stick with that one, right? But nowadays that everyone thinks that knows everything, every penny matters, and they think, okay, it's just a matter of switching agents or, so there are a few customers, I would say that old generation, they do business based on trust, and new generation is more like, okay, I don't care, I just change agents, I would say that it's easier for them to change agents based on pennies, right? Well, shouldn't be like that, right? There's a whole history behind, 20 plus years of company, being present at the market as the leader on export flow. So things like that should matter. But I would say for the younger generation, it doesn't matter as it should, I would say.
Okay, thanks for that. It's before we diving into the material a little bit, and of course, it's a bit of a balance between not just between trust or price. There's like other aspects as well where you may lose or win a client there, of course. But again, I mean, if is price the reason? I mean, that's what the sales guys always say, I reckon. Yeah, that's like your sales guys come back to the office. I didn't make a sale because we're too expensive. Drop the price, whatever. And the issue is, how do we coordinate sales techniques and coordinate sales teams with that sort of in mind? And also, you say trust is important. Yeah, but what does that actually mean? How do we develop this trust? And that's again, that's a bit of a hard thing to dive into. How about somebody between India and Brazil? I mean, in Europe, have their opinions on that? Who's feeling a bit lippy today? That's probably going to be Richard, yes? I was going to pick on you, didn't you? Price sensitive market in London, trust sensitive, other things. What makes or breaks the sale for you? And how do you coordinate your sales in your company?
Excuse me, I have a bit of cold today. I just listened to the last couple of people. I sort of agree with both. Well, I think nowadays there's more avenues for sales, right? Because of the new Gen X out there, they have different buying behaviors. Okay, so we have even more competition nowadays. I don't necessarily agree that people change for pennies, because I think you're risking your product, your freights, just for changing for pennies. I do think the trust and relationship and the knowledge is still very important. And I think actually people really don't always want to change forwarder, because it's difficult for them to, they've got to set everything up, right? So keep changing all the time. It's creating a lot of work for them. And I think networks like ours exists because we have clients who are quite loyal. Okay, we're fighting against the big guys. Okay, so we need loyalty from our customers. So listen, I don't think there's any right or wrong way. When we attend these meetings, we always say, oh, someone will change for $50, $25. But it sounds ridiculous when you think you may have $500,000 worth of stock in a container and someone would change the forwarder for $25. So I still think it's trust, it's knowledge, but sales is about hard work and just and perseverance, right? And accepting that you could be told no 10 times, right? It's hard work, perseverance, being liked, being trusted, having credibility. It's bloody hard. I mean, it's hard work. I mean, there's no easy way of doing it, right? The most successful salespeople are the ones that work hardest and, and keep focused. And it's just not an easy job. So, yeah, I'm interested this next hour.
Indeed. Thanks for those comments, Richard, from Quick Cargo in UK. Just give a bit of perspective. For the size of your team there, so you have how many are you in the office there? 20 people, something like that? Or how many are you in London?
16 people.
16 people, okay, right. So we heard before from Diego and Amtrans, they're kind of a bit bigger in Brazil. And New Globe, Diego, how many people you say in Amtrans?
100.
How many sales staff you have there?
Well, we're 135 people, 45 sales team.
45,
yeah, that's right.
Can I just ask? Excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
Can I just ask then? So you said you had 35 company and you got 45 salespeople. So you have a huge focus on the sales more than anything else, really, in ratio to your operations. That's a big percentage, right? I would have said I would have one or two in my size company, but you got 45 salespeople. That's incredible. So why is it you feel the need to have such a large sales force? Are you playing a numbers game? Are you going for quantity over quality, or what you feel you have that turnover? I'm very interested to have such a big sales force, because you've probably got 38% or whatever it is of your staff are sales, right? It's quite high in a business.
I get your point. So there are two main points here. The first one is that Brazil is too big. It's way too big.
Yeah.
So we have to have sales team, being present, right? And second, our system, we have our own system. It's developed by ourselves. It helps a lot on a day-to-day basis. So operations team has everything in there, and the system works very well for us. So in terms of operation, half of the whole service that has to be done by the operation team the system is doing for ourselves. So it helps a lot on a day-to-day basis, yeah. But we have other offices as well. So we had a head office, but we have other offices. That's why we're spread as a commercial team around Brazil.
Do you have a high turnover in sales? I mean, I'm just interested again in Brazil, as you said, it's a big market, huge country. What is the turnover of sales staff? Is that the biggest turnover in sales, or is it in other departments?
So you mean turnover of sales?
Yeah, like turnover of set numbers of salespeople. Do you, have 45, but maybe 20 leave each year, or in Brazil, do staff move around quite a lot into other forwarders, or?
Yeah, up to this moment, we are in 9% turnover from January to now. So
okay.
I would say, yeah, 18% of the whole team leaves in a year, I would say.
Right. Just for...
Okay.
So one more question, David. Sorry, I know you want to move on, but in Brazil, is it important for the customer that a salesperson, can he work for this company 1 month and then he moves to another company and then another company? Are people used to that, or does the salesperson lose credibility to keep changing?
You get your point.
That's a bit of a global question there, I think, not just Brazil, but yeah, that's it from Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that customers do business with you based on the knowledge of your company. They trust the sales guy, yes, but there is a whole thing in the back supporting that operation, right? So if that salesperson changes to another company, they might keep the relationship, but they do not have the operation side. They do not have the whole structured finance support and everything. So, or even the tariffs. So in the end of the day, the salesperson goes, but the customers keep with the companies. Basically, the competition are hiring the knowledge, but not the customers.
So you do a good job. You have a good chance to keep the client.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Sorry to talk.
No, it's okay. We always know what happens when we rattle your cage, Richard. Anyway, thank you for that. To say, there's some interesting points there. A little bit different from this morning's meeting, but it's good to get a bit of a background on what people are doing. I think there's many issues which are the same around the world. Concerns about, as you said, Richard, loyalty of the clients to the salesman or the company, whatever. But at the end of the day, we need to start considering a little bit in terms of how do we coordinate and what strategies do we look at for the sales as well. It's not just, say, insistence and making sure the price is right, whatever. And for that reason, I wanted to present to you Pierre Bonnel, currently from Sales Goal. I've known Pierre for many years. I actually met Pierre when he came as a P&O rep to sell container space to me when I was a budding and young, fresh-faced forwarder, and he wanted to invite me out for lunch, but he had a hole in his pocket that day. Anyway, that's a whole new story there. But without going too far into that one, Pierre, please tell us a little bit about your story. What brings you here?
It was a memorable one. I didn't know then that I would become your friend, or at least we will stay in touch for so long. But to invite a customer and not have any money is something that you definitely remember later in your career. So that was quite something. Well, I'm here for two reasons. First of all, to introduce myself and prepare the session in Istanbul, and to get to know you as a network and find out better what it is that you might find interesting in Istanbul. Prepare a presentation that is relevant for you. A little bit about myself. I come from shipping and freight forwarding. My last 30 years I've dedicated to build up a company, you might know it, called the JF Hildebrand, which was a world-leading forwarder in wines and spirits. So I was the main sales developer there, among other people, of course. We grew the company from 600 people to 4,500 over 30 years. Opened in 66 countries, and eventually we handled about 30 to 35% of the global wine trade. Odd thing for a freight forwarder, specialized, diverse, focused, very, very interesting company, I think, and that's something that I might want to share with you in Istanbul, depending on your preferences. With all that includes a little bit going back to what you mentioned before, that we were not one of the big monster companies. Now we eventually became one because we got acquired by DHL. Hence my 2 years of garden leave, redoing my life and setting up a sales management tool that is what I would like to have had all my life, which was something that was no red tape, no bureaucracy, simple and focused on actual sales management, which is fundamental sales planning and making sure you work on the competences of your team. But anyway, I will not focus on that. I wanted to get to know you, as I said, to be able to prepare that. This morning we said, okay, how do we provoke that? I think we did with a few fundamental concepts of basic philosophy around sales management, so to speak, to get people talking. This time is a bit reversed because you're already talking about these things and you're passionate about it. And I just would like to propose that we make it a 5-hour meeting instead and we extend it a bit more. Maybe David, I don't know, maybe I should share a little bit the same as this morning.
So, yeah.
And talk around those fundamentals and give you a bit of an idea. I know now, and I think, listening to you, that there will be room for me to prepare something in Istanbul, which is, first of all, some philosophic ideas I have around sales management, and then add on from my experience of how you can beat competition by being different, by being focused, specialized, build relationships, all the complexity of that. That is, in fact, it's complex because it's the amalgamation of hundreds of simple things. And I think that will always be my focus with sales and with management in general, but especially with sales management, that it has to be simple. If it's not simple, if it gets too fluffy, too complex, I don't understand it. And somebody said that when you cannot explain something, it's because you don't understand it. And when you can't explain it, the customer gets lost and a little bit, that's where we are. So yeah, I will do that. Then I will share that PowerPoint that I showed this morning. I hope you can see it. If I put it in presentation. So this was your brilliant invitation, but I must say I didn't really understand it at all, but I think it was very interesting, especially Happy CRM and I am the lady at Sales Goal, if anybody didn't know.
The idea behind that graphic was basically that there's a CRM which is trying to define and streamline the ways which we are working in a way, but sales at the end of the day is often a very much more human connection, especially in freight forwarding, I understand. And so it's not just about having a happy or effective CRM. It's more a question of how do we
as a piece
move on from there.
As a piece of art is brilliant. It's just that I'm not sure how it relates to what I will talk about now, but it was So anyway, what we did before these sessions, we said, okay, let's try to see what people will be interested in. Remind you that my main concern was to, having been invited to prepare a session in Istanbul, I wanted to make sure they were really meaningful for you and it served the purpose, right? And a lot of issues that came up this morning and also already now that I wanted to check. And so basically your answers were quite evenly spread apart from the pricing concern, which is always a constant, and confirmed basically that that you're normal as a group, right? You're normal as a group. Sorry, somebody on my door. I couldn't control that. I hadn't foreseen that one. So basically, you will see what you answered here about with regards to your main concerns, and what really stands out is the pricing. And the next thing that comes then is what are you doing about that?
Somebody's trying to sell him something. Salesman at the door.
Yes, obviously. Yeah.
Sorry, it was real-time logistics happening at my.
Was that a salesman at the door for you, Pierre?
No, it's not. It was a delivery guy from UPS, and fascinating. Sorry, forgive me. There's nobody else around. So basically, we started with those things and try to understand if there was something that really stood out, and there isn't really. So then I said, okay, let's go to my mantras about what sales management is about. And I know that we're talking to the American side, but I still use football or soccer, as you call it on the other side of the Atlantic. Happy to have
football, it
both.
Annoys them more. That's better.
Yeah, both. But I'm happy to have both English and Brazilian people on the call, so I feel less alone talking about football. It could be any team sport, really. Nobody would take a team sport coach seriously, standing on the sideline saying, guys, we got to win by 2-0, and it's the 18th minute, and now we need to score. And then in the locker room, talk about how we're going to score the second goal in the 65th minute or whatever. It would be ridiculous. Nobody would consider that. However, that is exactly how people talk in boardrooms around the world in companies. Following up on the budget, having targets that are purely indicated in numbers, and forgetting about the how. It's very, very common, especially when I've been in board meetings on senior level with shareholders and private equity companies who seriously did not understand how sales worked. So I always try to explain to them, it's like a team sport. The sports coach or the football coach cannot talk about the result. They have to talk about what are the activities that each of the players will do. How will we play? In this case, 4-4-2. Should we attack on the right side? Should we have high or low ball possession? Should we be careful with not losing the ball in midfield? Should we take a red card with their number 7 who is really good? All these issues are managing the activities, because results come from activities, and activities are handled by people who are human and have capabilities. And as a coach, I have to manage the activities and I have to manage the capabilities. I manage the activities by doing a plan, and I manage the capabilities by sitting down with my people and talking to them. So see what doesn't really move. I think it does. Yeah, now. So looking at this, we have a growth strategy. We normally do a budget. Then there is a follow-up of the results in the budget in most companies, and especially in large companies. And this is what then gets presented and commented. And in my previous career, I found myself very often in boardrooms and with owners trying to explain why results were up or down. And when I tried to speak sales management with them, they did not understand it because they had never done it. So I had to refer to things that they could also read in Financial Times and Wall Street Journal. So I talked about the wars, the bunker changes, the shipping line industry, the logistics supply chain hiccups around the world, the dollar, all these political issues, and they were happy with that. But in reality, what I really needed to talk about then was what had I done with regards to sales plans, because it is the sales plans that drive the activities that actually generate the results. So sales management is exactly like team
not
sports.
When it goes out.
Beg your pardon?
No, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So team sport and sales management are very similar, because you can do everything right and still lose the game. But if you do everything right all the time, you normally win the league or the what tournament you win the NBA or the Stanley Cup, or you tend to have good numbers to win the league. And these activities you can actually measure in 3 ways. You can measure the direction of the activities. Are we doing what we said we would do? You can manage the quality of the activities in ratios, hit ratios, lead generation ratios, closing ratios, or as you can have ratios on shooting. My youngest son has recently been in the US for 2 years playing college basketball, and what they measure was just fascinating. Everything is measured, and you can measure quality as well. And then of course you can measure quantity. How many shots on goal do we do, and how many sales visits. So all those things, direction, quality, quantity. But then underneath you have the actual sales rep, the individual, the human being, as David referred to, the person actually doing and generating the relationships that in the end will be what we need to manage. And those people will need skills to sell. They will need training to do that. They will need continuous coaching. And that is going to be the mission of the sales manager, because there will be different sales situations. There will be different needs in different markets for different customers. And we can talk about key account management or sales situation or consultative selling or value-added selling or expert selling or even farming and retaining customer. All those things are fine. But the sales manager will have to know how to do them. He will need to be a manager, he will need to be a leader, and he will need to learn to become a coach. And he will also need to be a sales expert and spend time with their people, out in the field, seeing customers and so on. So that is the basic framework. And what I always mention as well, that people tend to realize that they need sales management when they stop growing. So I don't want to extend myself too much on the PowerPoint side of things, but this is basically the fundamental philosophy around sales management, what it really is. Results are driven by activities. There's direction, quality, and quantity. The activities are executed by human beings. They have competences, and they need to be guided and coached. The sales manager has to be a manager, a leader, a coach, and an expert, and that is the fundamentals of all this. But then there's enormous amount of other complexities in freight forwarding. There is the geographical issue, the cultural issue, the changes in our environment, the online drive, and things are changing faster than ever. Shipping lines and airlines are getting bigger and bigger. The bigger forwarders, they grow by acquisition. There is more and more integration. But then everything has changed again with basically Trump winning the elections and a lot of instability in many places, looking at nearshoring, etc. So we're an industry that have very, very complex environment. So the other part of that, I was thinking, you might be interested as well, apart from going through a little bit about the basics and what I have found useful in my previous career in global forwarding, both managing companies and local entities that is applicable to you, fighting the big guys as a small entity in a country, or acting as a major player that also grows globally. Sharing that with you, what the toolbox is, basically the toolbox that I've been using that has been very, very successful, and having a few reflections about what are the options to grow going forward. What are the options to manage the teams? What are the options to apply a valid sales strategy, be it for a large operator in Brazil or for a small mid-sized company in the UK? So all of that is what I really wanted to know, and I think I have a bit of a feeling now. And if you don't mind, in Istanbul, I would present to you my personal toolbox, and hopefully you will find that interesting, because we will not have much time. And I think Todd Novak, that is St. Martin, right? You should try Skiathos as well in the Greek islands, and then you have both.
Okay, thanks, Pierre, for that those comments.
Yeah, because you've said so many interesting things yourself that I don't want to make it too long. I prefer to have interaction with you and a little bit validate if that is something that you would find interesting.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, what I think everyone wants to get to as a freight forwarder, being a very dynamic and focused person here, no one wants to listen to the theories. They just want what can I action? What can I actually do here? What's my take home in a sense for that? I know it's kind of a difficult question, and I'd like to get back before we get onto that in terms of the survey we did and some of the questions we asked before in terms of the current challenges in sales. Is aggressive pricing the reason why? Is that the biggest challenge in sales? Is that the reason why sales are either achieved or not? Or is a lack of forecasting quality or planning of sales activity? What is the relative importance of these? Because I don't think we can even measure these. We just hear about the price so much more, and it's so much of an easier conclusion that we don't really know what we need here in a way.
The truth is that all of them are important. They're all equally important. I think the only reason why we're measuring them differently with different priorities is we struggle more or less with them. Nobody said that compensation methods for the setting up a bonus program was complex. Nobody said that, because it's not difficult. To make sense out of pricing is very difficult. And there is a myriad of strategies around pricing that one can apply. But typically in a forwarding company, you don't even have time to think about them, because, the day ends and then tomorrow is another day, and it continues like this, right? So that's a little bit why I thought it could be interesting to share that playbook. What we did as a specialist back in the days, we made all our pricing in the same format that our customer do the pricing. Everybody today replicate the shipping lines pricing, and they add on something to it. And Rushi said before, even the large ones, they have a very in lack of imagination in the way they present prices. If you talk to somebody who sells steel by the meter, I'll price it by the meter. You can blur things, and you can do things much more creatively than we're doing today in many countries. Not in the US because of the FMC, but there's so many elements around every single topic. And maybe for the Istanbul session, we could even do some more preparation work and dig into what you really struggle with or what you would like to dig into more. It's a very vast topic, and it's quite funnily because I call myself a sales professional. This is you know, if I wasn't so humble as a person, I would say that I'm good at this. So, however, the problem is that people talk about sales without really understanding sales. So just like people talk about football without understanding football. And that, I think, is a very good analogy. Everybody in the bar here in Barcelona think they know exactly what the coach of Barcelona has to do. And that is something that at least the English and the Brazilian can relate to, right? And it's not a bad thing to go through the basics of football. Pep Guardiola, pass the ball, receive the ball. Pass the ball, receive the ball. It's start there, and then you go into the bigger stuff. I will be silent now and I'll let you drive.
I'm going to drill a little bit more. Why not? I mean, regarding logistics, which we're all doing, I mean, like sort of, we have different sized companies here, different sizes of sales teams. Some of them focusing their sales around maybe the operations staff who are always in direct contact with the clients, others who are more sales department focused. I mean, all in logistics, of course, but I mean, is there any sort of tactics, or is there any way we can work in a way which is more coherent to try to coordinate these sales staff and being in logistics? Or is it just like, as you said before, the commercial director's job is very difficult, and it's every situation is a world in its own? I mean, is there any commonalities you think we could direct to and take something from, Pierre, or what is different in logistics sales which is distinct to other industries and sales?
Is that a question for me? Because anybody in the room can answer. If you ask me, I think our biggest struggle is that we are in an industry that we were already at we were starting to get to the end of the food chain, so to speak, right? My grandfather worked in shipping in the beginning of the last century, and they were the heroes. They traveled to places, they spoke languages, they navigated, they were the heroes. They could charge what they wanted. And now we're in a situation where the perceived value of what we do is very, very limited. And it's very much commoditized. So I think that's not so much a sales thing. That's more of a strategic positioning thing. What value add do we deliver to our customers compared to the commoditized mass production of current? In another business that I had the privilege to ship a sailing boat from South Africa to Barcelona. And I tried to get quotes from Maersk and MSC. I was then not the guy from Hillebrand. It was just me wanting to get a sailing boat. It was horrible. It was horrible. Luckily, I knew somebody in the industry so they could help me. But I think there's a big opportunity for us to really think about what it is that makes us unique and makes us add value for our customers. And who are our customers? Who are our customers? Do we also try to be a DHL but smaller, or do we want to have a specific focus, right? So that's not so much sales management, that's more strategic positioning. But I think the positioning of each of you, and maybe potentially of the whole SCN, is a relevant topic as well. That is related. I think John was raising his hand, trying to say something, or maybe you were gesticulating with somebody in your office. I'm not sure.
It was both, actually, but the first one was yes. So first of all, thank you, Pierre, for sharing your comments, and David for putting this together. And I think your questions are very insightful as well, David. I know, but I just wanted to add and follow up. First of all, I agree very much with what you're saying. It's about strategic positioning and understanding what it is that we're doing. And going back to the examples of the football, it's also who am I playing against? What's my market? Because you can't have the same strategy that does not apply in Brazil or Europe, or, you have to understand what you're doing and then who your clients are today and who do you want them to be tomorrow. And I definitely believe that in general, just freight forwarding, as we all traditionally know it, has become a commodity. So what do we do about it? So I'll just share some things that I've done. So as a strategy, first of all, this sounds very basic, but I don't know if everyone does this. If you are quoting any freight moving from China, let's just say Brazil or the United States, as an example, to any main place in Latin America, there's no profit, right? Because it's such a huge trade lane. If your customers are in those places, the prices are basically transparent. So you have to understand that if you're going to play in that game, what is your strategy to go to sales for that? I can tell you that I might have the same customer, and if I'm moving product for them and they happen to be in Uruguay and they're moving it from China to Uruguay, I make virtually nothing on it. Seriously. because I'm moving a lot of cargo for them in other parts of the world, and that's where you make your profit. So I agree a lot. Today you have to think a lot about strategy. You know, and it's not the same margin on everything you do, even if it's just freight. And I think we all need to start going much further, and that's where you're going to make the money is in value-added services, in distribution, in warehousing, in supply chain management. You've got these relationships, so go much deeper, and that's how you avoid someone leaving for a few dollars. Because once you're giving them a global solution, then that's where you make your money. Yeah. That's where it's very difficult for them to walk away. We even have our system that if we have somebody who's quoting for us number of times, don't get replies, don't get anything. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I quote below cost. You know, it's gotta, I mean, you a lot of times I think we're being used at times, so it's fine. You know, if they're not getting replies or this, that, and the other, so you eliminate it. You know, don't waste time. Now, if you're not going to make much money, that's fine too, if you know it. So I think the strategy of what we're doing, where we want to go, we can't be complete. You know, I can't send a price sheet out to the world. That's not our business. I don't think any of our business. We have to change these prices depending on the client, depending on the service, and go much deeper. And I think we do need to use technology. I think, like the example, we all have to be very efficient in our operations because it's out there now. We can't have a lot of people doing what we did before. We have to be extremely efficient, especially if we're doing the commodity side of the business, and then try to go much deeper. And I think that with SCN, I think we have to take advantage of the network to see how we can better offer global services to clients. I tell you personally, almost not. I'm based in Panama. Very little of my business is in Panama. It's global, and I happen to be here. But I think that's where we all have to go. Anyway, that's what I.
Super interesting. Again, many points touched there, but like there are so many different strategies. So that is something that, you know, I would be happy to share a number of cases. I remember, and again, if I go back to my past life, and you can check me out on LinkedIn, just because I can't talk about it now. I'm no longer employed by Hillebrand or DHL. But we were very successful in wine, and we were also successful in spirits, but less because it was larger volume, more tender based. There was less relationship, etc. And we had to grow. And I said, let's go in beer. And nobody said, it's crazy. Beer is impossible. So I went to see AB InBev, our Belgian Brazilian mega brewer, and I told them, what do you struggle with? And they said, we don't have global visibility of our containers. So I set up a control tower for them and charged it for almost nothing. And then I said, why do you do tender that includes 5,000 trade lanes when the last 1,000 only ship 3 containers each? Let me take care of all those, and you focus on the rest with the carriers. So just giving you simple things, right? And if I could do that, because you can say Hillebrand was big, it wasn't that big, you know what I mean, compared to the 500,000 people of ABI or of DHL. All I'm saying is there are hundreds of different strategies, and maybe that is also something for you, David, to look at options to collaborate on tenders and policies and splits. I don't know. That's another topic. It's not for me to decide. But there is certainly that thing. And don't forget that in 2025, somebody that picks up the phone and has a name and is somebody that's going to be the same guy next time you call is a lot of value. That's value add. That's amazing. You don't find that in any business. Is there any big company will struggle to provide you with the same guys to take care of you? If I call John in Panama, you're gonna be John in Panama tomorrow too, and that is already there some value add, right? So I think that there is that discussion, there is a whole positioning discussion, but then it's also managing sales, because sales will change, but sales cannot be automated because sales is the beginning of relationships. And all businesses that I've done in my whole life has been done with human beings. And most decisions are made based on human behavior and personal priorities, not by corporate policies, etc. Of course, they will apply, they will try to fit in, but the actual person who takes the decision is normally somebody who wants to make a career, look good with his boss, avoid risk, choose a company that is reliable, you know, all those things that actually cannot be copied. And here, Diego and John and Richard and Rashi are exactly as good as the largest shipping line or freight forwarder in the world. And that's not something that can, that element is important to keep, and that will something that sales is still going to be around to do. And you don't have to have many salespeople, but they have to be good. They have to be better. And, first of all, they have to carry the flag, but you have to manage that. You're going to have to coach that. You're going to have to train that. You're going to have to look at that. And I would always suggest to keep everything as simple as possible, because in today's world, we go crazy if we don't keep it simple. It's hard enough it's hard enough to get through the working day, right? So I'm just opening up another different doors here. This meeting was totally different, David. Is this the same group of companies, or like, I like this one.
You're talking about like human interactions and like sort of people. I mean, of course, the problem being that increasingly there is not such a human contact in the sales action, and I think that is increased efficiency and digitalization. Which is not necessarily a bad thing.
There is no human contact in this, then it's not sales, then it's pricing, or then it's contracting, which is also has to be managed, right? So don't get me wrong, but sales is really that interaction with the customer, and that is it. And we all know when we have taken a flight, or when we have done something, or this morning there was a problem with my health insurance, and I got hold of a guy in this huge health insurance company that actually changed my name because my name was wrong, but he did it because he wanted to. The whole system is not set up to please me or to help me. So we are small companies, and we can actually be different and keep it simple. I think simplicity is going to be a major value in the future. The companies think they're smart by giving everybody and their dog an app for their business. I don't need 600 apps to do my regular life. I want to get out of that. I want to have somebody to talk to. So that's going to be the luxury of the future. That's the luxury of the future, talking to people. But that's another topic. I think sales will always be around people, and managing sales, it's something that I just would hope and love to see you thinking about it, meeting in Istanbul, and really talk about what are the things that are really relevant for me, my company, and hopefully my dream is that we meet, I share my toolbox with you, and you take one thing and go home and said, this was worth it. And that's it. And I think I know now, having met the two groups, I think I know what the toolbox will look like.
Richard, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've enjoyed listening to Pierre, and I've been saying for quite a long time that who'd have thought it'd become a USP to just say to customers, we answer the phone. You can speak to somebody any time of the day or night. We pick up the phone. And if we think in our lives, the relief of when you've got a problem and you pick up the phone and a real person answers the phone, you're like, oh, thank God you can help me, versus an answer phone or doing something online. And even thinking about buying behaviors have changed, but you can buy you can arrange your own holiday through booking.com or something. But the best holidays are when you go to one of these companies who have experts in that field, and they put together a personalized itinerary, because they listen, where do you want to go to? What do you want to do? What do you want to see? What food do you like? What places? What countries? And you tell them, and they put together something for you. And more often than not, yes, you pay a bit more, but you have a fantastic holiday. And we're kind of like that. I mean, I agree 100% with Pierre. The personal touch is still always going to be important. Sales, it's never going to be a machine. Never. It's always going to be the human aspect, because what's that old cliched saying? People buy people. People have, they need trust. So I think we still have those same opportunities, but obviously now with social media and everything else, there's more ways to contact people, and maybe sometimes people have information overload. We're all getting spammed. That makes it, for a salesperson, that makes it harder. But yeah, I've enjoyed listening to Pierre, and I agree with a lot of what he says.
Let me just pass it over to Diego. Diego has his hand up as well.
Yeah, I agree with Richard and Pierre at the same time. Personal interaction gives you the possibility to give a personalized service. In the end of the day, we are problem solvers. We're here to solve some problem. Someone has to ship something urgent to somewhere, and we're here to help, right? And if someone relies only on a system that gives you standard replies and standard service, the system would never be able to replace a salesperson. So yeah, I agree with you guys. The personal interaction that we sell, all SCNers, I would say, the size of our companies compared to, such a huge companies that only have standard procedures, standard systems, and they are so big that they are not able to give some specific curves or specific service or specific personalization. That yeah, this is the main differentiation from us to these companies. And the solution, Pierre, that you gave to the beer company, for example, even the big ones, they have problems to be solved. And if you were not there to see this and say, hey guys, what if I give you this and that, right? You were there seeing their pain, and in the end of the day, you solved the pain, and at the same time, you made money. So it's a win-win business.
And we all have examples. I'm sure you all have examples of situations where, you know, there is a part of a business that you always want to get and the customer never gives it to you. And then one day that company goes bust or there's a major fallout. And just because you were there for 20 years handing in your card and so on, they call you Saturday night and they said, we have an urgency. And, you know, we all have experiences like that in our industry. And it's a tough job to be a happy loser. As I think Richard mentioned that whole thing in sales, right? You have to be a happy loser to be in sales. And actually, my first interview in shipping was fantastic. I will share this with you. I was only 22 guy in shipping company in Gothenburg. He told me they have a very funny accent, but I will not try to imitate that. But they said, are you good at geography? And I said, yeah. Well, yeah, it's one of the few things I'm good at. I said, can you speak English? Well, not bad. I'm not a native, but I can speak English. Have you get beaten up? Or have you ever been in a fist fight? And I said, yeah. And then he said, do you like girls? And I said, yeah. And then he said, you can start on Monday. So a few months later, I go back to him and I said, okay, I understand the geography. I understand the English. The whole thing about being a fist fight, I don't really get it. And he said, you know, you're going to have to talk to dockers here. The tough guys, you know, you're going to have to deal with German companies in Hamburg. They're not as friendly as, you know, that this is good, tough people. Okay, I get that. But the last one, you know, do you had something against gays or what is that? Why do I have to like, I mean, I do like girls. No, and then he said, it's because you try. And it's sales. You try. And every time you go home from the discotheque alone, but you try. And I was like, this is the most intelligent interview I've ever had in my whole career. Feel free to use it. It's a true story. It's a true story. So sales is about that, right? It's about that trying, about that incorporating. And you know also when we sell a service, the service becomes us. The service is us, the company, all of you. When you face your customers, you are the company. And that's why it's so important to manage that team or those people and do as little as possible. I'm not saying that people should create a bureaucracy or massive KPIs and a lot of complexity, but it has to be managed. And one has to reflect over what is essential for me and my company when it comes to sales. Just as you do that when it comes to customer service. It's much more natural in forwarding to understand that operation is the key, because if the operation doesn't work, the customer doesn't come back. You know, this is the fundamental, and treating people nice, retaining all that for sure. And how do we then attract new customer? Or how do we grow the business with the existing customer? That has got to be done by that sales thinking that can be executed by people that do both operations and sales. But I think, David, and I think I have an interesting workshop for Istanbul.
That would be great too. Looking forward to that.
Share every piece of my toolbox I will sell to you for one coffee.
One Turkish coffee coming up for you there, Pierre, in Istanbul in that case. Then.
No, well, it's a pleasure. Also, now that I'm no longer in the forwarding industry, it really is a pleasure to share this. Before I couldn't do it. I was hooked up with that would be illegal maybe, but now I don't care. I love it.
I think one of the good aspects of SCN, obviously there are members in the same country amongst us, and this meeting itself, I think there's a couple of people from the UK or whatever, but there's usually people from the same market, should we say, but an appreciation that we can share as humans and be seen and appreciate other angles, even if it is with competitors, should we say, because the main competitors are, as Diego or whoever was saying before, are out there, the multinationals really, yeah. And we can learn a lot off each other, I think, which is also very good.
And to be provocative, the proof that sales is more complex to manage is that all of you, like me, have been far more forgiving to bad salespeople than we are to bad operators. A bad operator is impossible to have. You cannot have a bad operator. You lose traffic. You forget to invoice. You know that it's not. But a bad salesperson, it's to find and grow and groom good salespeople. It's very
sales is more subjective. An operations person, if they do it wrong, that's more easy to.
That's exactly my point. So sales management can be managed. You manage the activities, you measure direction, quality, quantity, and it becomes less subjective. But in the end, of course, it is. But I will maybe argue with that because some customers might like a bad operator because they don't invoice and stuff like that.
Maybe so. I know so. Anyway, thank you very much, Pierre. I don't want this meeting to go on too long. I would like you to be able to get off to the disco or to your girlfriend or whatever, Pierre. That would be good, I think.
You see, but this is the in Spain. It can be translated from Spain, David. The trust is disgusting. We say in Spanish. You know, like it doesn't make sense in English, but
tampoco lo entiendo en español.
La confianza da asco.
Well,
La confianza da asco.
Bueno, está bien.
Sí, es una expresión.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us. It's been great to be with you here to get a bit of a prelude of a topic. The last one we were talking on was AI, and we're certainly getting ready for a great meeting in Istanbul. We're still preparing some of the panel debate as well, which should be forthcoming as well. We may have a quick meeting on that before the meeting in Istanbul. What we do often is we have another cyber meeting just so we can get ready for other activities, whatever. We'll probably have a meeting just before. We've got the schedule opening relatively shortly. When does the schedule open, Sophie? Don't tell me it's on the website. I know it's on the website, but if you could remind us all.
On the 25th of August. So
and is it
prepare.
On the website? It's on
yes.
The website? Yeah. So lesson number one, look on the website, then ask Sophie the question afterwards in that case. Yes.
And register those who haven't registered for the conference. Still in time.
Yeah, there's a few people dragging their feet there. They like to, we have an early bird discount as well. We're going to start applying the late vulture surcharge for people who register especially late. But anyway, that's we're still voting on that one, but we'll see how that one goes in that case. So again, thanks to Pierre Bonnell again from Sales Goal. See you in Istanbul, most of you. If not, we'll be in touch. More things coming up for you in SCN. So, do we have another Cyber meeting planned? We don't have one yet. I don't think no. But we'll see if we can take you away from the beaches here in Europe and chat again on another matter. Final word from Pierre,
one last thing, David, because my purpose here is to prepare Istanbul in the best possible way and make it interesting. But if you have anything that you're thinking of, or you want to have. Give me some ideas or give me support or ask for help or criticize, I'm really happy to receive your contact. David has my personal contacts, but I'm also on LinkedIn and I find this session and you guys very it's very nice to hear feedback. Okay. Nice people. I have a nice impression. It's almost as good as meeting you in person.
How and where we find nice people amongst forwarders, I don't really know, but anyway, we seem to manage to do it, which is good, yes. Anyway, great. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you all again soon in that case. Bye for now.
Bye.
See you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.